Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Dr. Daniel Choi from North Texas Dental Surgery, Wisdom Teeth, and Denture Implant Center. Wanted to share a case with you guys. Had a gunshot victim to the face who had been shot in the mouth come in the other day, interested in getting a snap-on denture. So in this video, I wanted to kind of go over whether he would be a candidate or not, and also just kind of showing what requirements we have when we're doing a snap-on denture for a patient and what solutions we have for him. But before I jump into that, if you could give me a thumbs up, a follow on the channel, and also make sure you give us a follow on Instagram, Facebook, North Texas Dental Surgery. That's where we're going to be posting. And we got a lot of cool before and after photos. We have photos of our office. We're moving our McKinney office in a month. Super excited about that. Going to be twice the size. Just more accommodating, way more accommodating for us to be taking care of our patients. Definitely very excited that we have a lot more parking at that. That's been the chief complaint for our patients where we're currently situated at. But anyways, going into this case, let's talk about this patient. So this patient is in his 50s, interested in getting, what he currently has actually right now is a partial denture. So let's look at that. So he has a partial denture up top. As you could see, he has all these missing teeth. What you would also see, taking a look closer, is I know a lot of people don't know what they're really looking at, but there's a big void of bone, basically where he was shot. He lost all this bone in his mouth. The issue now as to why he wants another solution is that he has a lot, as you see, a lot of crowns in his mouth, and he has some very large infections in his bone because all these teeth are going bad. And so because the teeth are going bad and the teeth are going loose, his partial denture that he'd been wearing for a long time is now failing on him right now. So he's like, all right, what are my options? Can I do obviously I know that my option would be a denture, but why don't we look at something that's implant supported? Because I know one of the biggest issues with a regular denture is that I'm going to have to use a lot of denture glue. Getting it to stick in place is going to be an issue. Therefore, that's why we're going to use the denture glue. And then if you have a gag reflex, that all that plastic on the roof of the mouth is going to be one thing, and also how that affects your taste, and stuff like that. So that's typically the reason why we're going to see a lot of patients want to go with some sort of implant support solution. Now, he came in specifically wanting to look at the snap-on denture option, the implant denture option, right? So I looked at his case with them and I said, all right, let's, this 2D scan only tells me so much. Let's look at the 3D scan and what is it really showing me? And when we take a look at his 3D scan here, unfortunately, he lost so much bone in the front of his mouth that this whole area, he just doesn't have enough bone. So what do we, when we say that there's not enough bone, what are we really talking about? When it comes to placing dental implants that to support any sort of implant support denture, whether it's a snap-on denture and all-on-4, it's imperative that we have enough bone in the sense of enough height of bone and enough width of bone surrounding your dental implant. A dental implant is essentially just a titanium screw that integrates with your body, right? So we use titanium parts throughout your body for many orthopedic surgeries, and also inside your mouth. Titanium is a metal that integrates with your bone, which is great because it can serve as an anchor. However, I like to tell people, let's say you're putting a post in the ground for a mailbox, you're using a post in the ground for a fence. What you want to do is here in North Texas and Dallas, we get a lot of, windstorms, high gusting winds. What we have to do is we have to anticipate that your dental implants, when you start chewing on them, they're going to take a lot of forces, right? So obviously we want to bury that implant as deep in the bone as possible, and also make sure that we're not using a really skinny implant, but we're also using a wider implant within reason. We don't want to go too wide, but using a wider implant. And so the taller and the wider that implant is, the more surface area we have for the implant to integrate with the bone, okay? So that's basically the whole logic of why we want to make sure that there's a lot of bone around your implant. Again, going back to my example of fence post, I don't want to bury a fence post 6 inches in the ground, right? I want to bury that as deep as possible in the ground. And I'm not going to want to use these really skinny fence posts. I want to use a wider diameter implant, a fence post, so that when I start coupling them up every, few feet or whatever, and I'm, putting all my fence posts together and tying them all together, then I'm going to have a really strong fence. And so that actual same concept exists with your implant denture, right? So we want to have dental implants that are placed kind of like equidistant from each other, coming from the back teeth to the front teeth, okay? We don't want to cluster all your dental implants in one area, because if I'm chewing with your back teeth and all your implants are up here, we're going to be creating these cantilevering forces. Basically, we're going to be chewing in areas and creating essentially like a teeter-totter effect, right? So if I'm chewing back here, but your implant's here, then we're going to create these like forces, and eventually your implant's going to fail, right? And so that's actually the concept that we see going on with this patient here. What we'd see is that we'd be able to place some implants back here via a sinus lift, because we can easily add some bone up there. But he doesn't really have any bone here to really work with. Even through our processes called guided bone regeneration, where we can go in and add a significant amount of bone. I mean, look at how much bone he has here on his upper left side. And then on his left side, we could do another sinus lift. But then up here on his upper right, he just has no bone, right? So I would be mind blown if we could really build up his bone via guided bone regeneration. The really cool thing is that we have, the ability to do really crazy bone grafting. Car accident victims, people have lost, trauma to the face, fell on their face. Patients unfortunately will lose their teeth and also the bone. But we can also go ahead and build up a significant amount of bone to anchor in those dental implants via a process called guided bone regeneration. Is this patient a candidate for it? Unfortunately, no. Not only was there too much trauma in the area, but it's been decades since the incident, so whatever bone he had back then is just even more bone was lost over time. Mother Nature can essentially take away a lot of bone if there's no teeth or implants there over a long period of time. So kind of going back to reemphasize what I was talking about earlier, we want to make sure that we have what we call AP spread, anterior posterior spread, with your dental implants, meaning that we are going to place your implants equidistantly. So we'll place one here, do a sinus lift, do one here, do one here, do one here. If you wanted a snap-on denture, obviously he would need some sinus lifting to add the bone back here and on this side, and significant bone grafting all over the mouth. But the problem is that because there's so much bone grafting involved, what that really is going to do is it's really going to drive the cost of this overdenture case up there. So when I'm looking at a case like this, people often ask me well, how much is a procedure like this? It's again, I created another video talking about cost of snap-on dentures, and I'll link that above. Actually, I made 2 videos about that. But it's very difficult for us to say what the cost of somebody's snap-on denture is just over the phone, or just by looking at some x-rays. So many factors. Again, how much bone do you have? What part of the country do you live in? Everybody charges different. How many implants do you want? So if you ask me to guess what most surgeons across the United States would charge on a procedure like this, because you're only going to probably see oral surgeons and periodontists taking on a case like this, I'm guessing you're probably going to look at over $25,000, closer to $30,000 if you ask me, just for his upper arch. So, would he even be a candidate for an all-on-4? And so that would be a little bit of a stretch due to just so much bone loss up front. Would we be able to use zygomatic implants because he's missing so much bone up front? We'd have to investigate even further to really see if he's an option there. We could still do some sinus lifting on him. If you want to avoid that, you can place some pterygoid implants. I know that sounds a little foreign, but there are a few other options that a snap-on denture, all-on-4 can give us versus a snap-on denture whenever a patient is missing a ton of bone like this. One other thing that I wanted to say is that in cases like this where a patient is missing a lot of bone, it's very important with every snap-on denture case that you basically get these implants as parallel as possible, so that prosthesis, when you snap it in and out, it draws correctly. Okay, if I got an implant placed like this or like this, because the bone is very minimal in this patient, I just have to angulate the implant wherever the bone is. The manufacturers of these, the overdenture, the snap-in denture parts will tell me I can use a different level, a different type of insert, I can use a different angled abutment, but that only works within reason to give us some flexibility. Long story short, what I'm talking about is there's just, your snap-on denture, when you're snapping in, is just going to get way loose over time. Patients are going to get a little bit frustrated with that. And so these are some of the technicalities that are going on with the snap-in dentures that, you're not going to like the results when a patient is like, if you're missing a ton of bone and we try to do a snap indenture with you. So I created another video talking about this topic. So basically, I'll link that also above too. Hopefully this information was helpful. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment below. And again, please give us a follow, a like, and follow us on Instagram, Facebook. We are North Texas Dental Surgery. Thank you very much.